Hi everybody! Today we have a very interesting little story I like to call Why You Should Never Celebrate Too Early in Rocket League. Now this is probably a pretty obvious piece of advice to most of us. The concept of celebrating too early is something that many people are aware of. There's actually an entire subreddit devoted to clips of athletes celebrating too early and then completely blowing it in the end. It's hilarious. These people are idiots, right? Who doesn't love watching an idiot fail?
Yeah! You lost, bro. Damn. That was awesome.
Well, maybe if the idiot told their side of the story, you wouldn't be so judgmental, you know? Did you ever think of that? Did you ever think about maybe what that idiot was going through? Maybe you're the idiot. It's definitely not me. Just like the story is also not about me at all. This is a true story about a friend of mine. As this story is called Why You Should Never Celebrate Too Early in Rocket League, you probably have already guessed where we're going with this, but you still clicked on the video, not because you were completely clueless about what was going to happen, but because you wanted to be a part of the character's journey. Or maybe you just wanted to laugh at the idiot. Either way, you'll probably get what you came for. Now at this time, my friend, I believe, was D-ranked quite a bit. And what I mean by that is he was in the crash and burn phase, which is the worst part in the cycle which I call the 5 stages every Rocket League player goes through. For the last couple months, he's been mid to high champ 3. In fact, he may have even hit GC a couple times, but who knows, maybe he was exaggerating. And honestly, he was probably carried there, because why else would he be down here now? The down here I'm referring to is mid to low champ 2, so he's fallen quite a bit in the rank department. Alright, let's move on to character number 2. This guy is the teammate. In Rocket League stories, the teammate plays a critical role. They can be a relatively passive character sometimes, sort of like a background actor with just a couple lines, or they can be a more critical part of the plot. Sometimes they might even be the antagonist, or the bad guy. This makes for a compelling dynamic in storytelling, when the antagonist is close or related to the main character. Like in Star Wars, how the evil Lord Vader turns out to be the hero's father. So whether or not this teammate is actually the antagonist in this particular story is up to you. So we actually have a little bit of a moral gray area here, which again, can make the story more compelling. In Game of Thrones, for instance, there's a loose sense of families and houses that the audience typically side with, but within those houses, there are individuals with good and evil tendencies. So the audience ends up engaged in the content in a different way, because rather than cheering for the good guys against the bad guys, they get to know the individual characters and become more emotionally invested in their journeys and character arcs. So as you can see, my friend began this game extremely confidently. Remember, he was D-ranked, so if I could guess what was going through his head, it was probably something like, I shouldn't be this rank because I used to be a higher rank. These people are worse than me. Now we all know from an audience perspective, that's a terrible attitude to have, because the difference in Rocket League ranks can actually be kind of subtle. A Champ 2 becomes a Champ 3 by consistently making the right choices and executing on those choices. When a Champ 3 stops making the right choices, or stops executing properly, even in a minor way, they D-rank. So this thought in my friend's head that he's somehow better than the people in this lobby is likely what takes this story to its depressing conclusion. But don't let me give it away more than I already have. Let's continue watching this tragedy. So my friend's team takes a pretty hefty lead here, scoring several easy goals in a row. The opponents here are basically playing the role of useless opposing soldiers, easily giving up goal after goal, but randomly scoring here to keep the story mildly interesting. At least, that's what my friend thought. Really, this perception of the other team was just another element leading to his downfall. Speaking of downfall, we're now finally approaching the critical moment in our not-so-heroic hero's journey. Well, before that, he actually scored one more goal, bringing the score to 5-1 with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Skipping forward a little bit, we find the game nearing under a minute to go, and that's when it happened. Here, his teammate streaks ahead and clears away the last useless defender, parting the Red Sea of any and all obstacles, leading for an easy goal to put this game away even further. However, let me remind you that my friend is in fact an idiot and decides to have some fun and celebrate his dominance by just letting this sucker roll in slowly without any help. You notice he moves his camera here to see if anyone's coming and seems satisfied to discover no enemies in his vision. This is how you know he's an idiot. If there are no opponents in his vision, where does he think they are? You and I know, of course, they are simply behind him, streaking up to the ball to make the easy save. Now, if we would end the story right here, this would probably be a pretty insignificant event. After all, my friend's team still has quite a massive lead. But remember, the title is Why You Should Never Celebrate Too Early in Rocket League, and that's because, after this moment, everything changed. Let's go over to the teammate for a little bit, since he now becomes a key part of the plot. This is where character development really becomes interesting, because until now, he's held a relatively quiet role. But he's ready to step up now and take this story on its downward trajectory to utter disaster. He begins his work by doing absolutely everything in his power to ensure the other team gets the ball in front of his net. The opposing team senses this character's mission to throw as hard as possible, and that's where we see even more character development, as the opposing team upgrades from useless cannon fodder to overpowered juggernauts, taking advantage of every opportunity available to them. The teammate, of course, continues to supply those opportunities. Here, we see my friend go up for a block, but rather than shoot the ball right in front of the net, the opposing team actually fake him out by completely whiffing, allowing yet another goal to be scored. My friend's lead is now all but gone, and the horror of the seemingly unavoidable fate is now sinking in. This is where the teammate fully transforms into his role of chaotic evil and completely loses his mind. With seconds remaining and just a 1-goal lead, he finds himself aimlessly wandering in no man's land, leaving a wide open net for the 0-second equalizing goal. At this point, the game isn't lost yet though, we're still heading into overtime, but you can actually see the teammate's car pauses here, which indicates something terrible. He's typing. "We would have been up by 1 now if it wasn't for you not scoring that goal," he reminds my friend in front of the whole lobby. Anger fills his chest, and his heart rate increases by 200%, pounding hot blood through his sweaty hands, now losing their grip on his DualShock PS4 controller. It was at this point that my friend realized the game was already lost. The teammate had already completely lost his composure by heavily focusing on an event 4 goals prior. While he does have a point, they would have had an extra goal if my friend wasn't an idiot. They would also still be up by 4 goals if he hadn't insisted on becoming the #1 passer for the other team. So it's no surprise that he gets balled on the end line in overtime to take this story to its thrilling conclusion. He immediately types "fuck you" to my friend, firmly placing the blame on his teammates' shoulders. And he's got a point. My friend is clearly garbage at this game, as you can tell by his gameplay. He looks more like a Platinum 2 than a Champ 2. But as an audience, it's hard to choose a side here. Clearly, my friend is an idiot and almost definitely would have won the game if he had simply scored the goal. But take my friend's point of view. After D-ranking, he's already lost nearly everything and is simply playing the game in order to get an inkling of fun and joy. After easily beating his opponent 4 times in a row, he decided to celebrate early. Would he have made that same choice if he knew he was teamed up with Mr. Chaotic Evil? Probably not. The lesson here is when you're solo queuing in Rocket League, you need to avoid having any fun at all costs. The main thing is to focus on winning your games, no matter how big your lead is, and no matter how boring it is at that moment in the game. Unless you enjoy watching your own teammates rage and fall apart before your eyes. That makes you chaotic evil. That makes you an idiot. That makes you me. And that's why you should never celebrate too early in Rocket League. Thank you.